Thank you, Tommy, for that sports update. The time is 16 minutes to 12 noon Central African time here on Channel Africa, the voice of the African Renaissance. And the program is African Dialogue with myself, Zinat Abdul. We are coming to you live on the frequency 9625 kilohertz shortwave on the 31 meter band to Southern Africa, also via audio streaming on www.channelafrica.org, and of course via Facebook and Twitter as well, where you can follow us to keep up to date with the programmings here at Channel Africa. This morning on African Dialogue, being a Thursday, we discuss issues pertaining to environment and wildlife. And of course, we've been having a series of discussions. Every Thursday, we talk about issues of environment, and we talk about issues pertaining to water, climate change, solar energy, renewable energy, COP17 that we held here in Durban last year. And of course, keeping you up to date and abreast of, changes within the environment and issues that you should know or that we consider important when we're talking about environmental matters. Currently in South Africa, we're experiencing very unpredictable weather patterns. Just yesterday, there were reports of flooding in the Kruger National Park, and that's in the Mpumalanga province of South Africa. The Western Cape, where we are joined on the line by Andiswa, is currently experiencing a heat wave, a severe heat wave. It said that temperatures are scorching high, and there's a possibility of increased fell fires and so on. It's also been said, research has also shown that in the Southern Africa region, we're likely to experience water shortages or increased water shortages, and thus placing strain on our water consumption. And it's also been said that the solution lies in groundwater exploration. And in South Africa, it's believed that about only 13 to 15%, groundwater accounts for only 13 to 15% of total water consumption. So what does Mvuto Africa, which is an organization, an Earth Sciences consultancy organization based in Cape Town, do? Well, basically they specialize in geographic information systems, and they use this information to access groundwater or to identify where groundwater is located, and of course trying to inform and regulate policies regarding water or groundwater to the Department of Water Affairs. So that's in a nutshell, one of the many things that they do. And Andiswa, thanks for staying with us there on the line. I mean, we've been talking about the issue of fracking, and we've been talking about the issue of groundwater under strain due to climate change. Currently, right now, the Western Cape province is experiencing a severe heat wave. Does that impact on groundwater availability? Hello.
The drought, and you've mentioned earlier on that the Western Cape or the Western region has been faced with drought for the past 2 to 3 years. You find places like George and Mossel Bay and Beaufort West still currently is faced with a huge water shortage problem, and also the Eastern Cape in the country has had a big water problem, and water shortages has been quite all over the place. But we found that in most of these cases, where the municipalities went was to groundwater, to develop groundwater well fields to supplement for the lack of water or for the drought, because it mainly impacts on surface water. In George, about 2 years back, when the municipality started looking at the solutions for groundwater, and we drove there with a meeting with the district municipality. As we were flying and about to land in George, you could see in the mountains that there was water flowing off the mountains, even though the dams were low and there was no rainfall, but still there was groundwater discharge happening in the mountains. So even during the drought season, you still have your groundwater resources if you have a good aquifer in your area, which is the case in the Western Cape region.
Interesting in that regard, and does the melting of ice caps, I mean, just as a thought, does that also impact on groundwater level?
It is seen as one of the recharge methods. So you get your recharge of the groundwater comes from rainfall, and it also does come from snow as well, from snow melt.
In South Africa, I mean, we're lucky or we're fortunate enough to have a company like yours, Mvuto Africa, which specializes in geographic information systems and so on. Is the rest of the Southern Africa region, I mean, as fortunate? Are there also monitoring systems in place to measure groundwater in those countries as well? And do you work with those countries to measure the availability or access of groundwater within the region?
Well, on my experience, the challenge that the Southern African community still has is also more on the management of the resource. The whole concept of using groundwater well hasn't really traveled that much, and also in most cases the exploration is more towards the shallow aquifer. They haven't gone the route of exploring the deep aquifers, and the shallow aquifers are really dependent on the climate, so much that you actually feel it, and so people are more having well points and rather than deep boreholes and things. So we are trying to look at building partnerships with some of the people like in Mozambique and in Namibia for groundwater development in those countries, and seeing how their deep aquifers actually work and how sustainable they are. But most often for now, it's been mainly exploration on the shallow aquifers.
Do you suppose perhaps the infrastructure is a challenge in the other countries perhaps?
Well, I think the infrastructure is definitely one of the key challenges, because even how you drill your borehole, how you equip your borehole for proper use, and also how do you make sure you prevent your borehole from vandalism, for example. And the equipment that goes into the borehole sometimes gets rusted, so you have to use the right equipment so that it doesn't get rusted, which impacts the quality of your water, of course. And sometimes the equipment falls inside the borehole, and then you've lost that borehole. So there is a need to educate the communities in terms of how to drill proper boreholes and how to equip the boreholes and how to maintain their boreholes. And it happens that in some of the communities that there is no one within the community. If the borehole or the boreholes are to be managed by the community itself, there is no one in the community who knows enough. It's like not having a plumber in your area. Every time you've got a problem, you try to do it yourself instead of calling a plumber because there are no plumbers available. It's a similar situation to that. So the infrastructure in terms of the hard infrastructure that goes into wellfield development as well as the human infrastructure is still one of the key challenges.
So can it be accurately said or safely assumed that we're talking groundwater, when we're talking about groundwater, we're talking about a very fragile resource here?
We're still talking about a very fragile resource. Even in South Africa, we're still talking about it as a fragile resource.
Okay. Well, now it makes sense because reading all the information that's out there on groundwater and so on, many have described it as a hidden treasure. And now it actually makes sense, listening to what you've been saying, why it's been described as a hidden treasure.
Oh, definitely.
Well, can it also be said that groundwater exploration or further exploration into groundwater and discovering of further aquifers and good quality aquifers could possibly be a solution to climate change and hence the water shortages that we're likely to experience by 2020?
I think so. In the Western Cape, we've proven it that actually you do need to go beyond your normal shallow aquifers to actually get the good quality and also the amount of water that you get. So it's actually one of the key things that the authorities, the water authorities should look at is what type of aquifers do they have in the regions. Not only look at what they've been doing and the ones that they've been tapping into, but what other aquifers are there that they can tap into. So it's definitely, there's still a lot of homework that needs to be done, looking at what else is there that's available.
It's also been said that in Saudi Arabia there's a process of desalination or taking out the salt from groundwater and hence using that in terms of to produce electricity and to produce also their own wheat and so on. Is that also something that in South Africa can be looked at further?
South Africa has started looking at desalination. There are places along the coast, especially in the western coast, where desalination plants have been put in, and some of them quite successfully, and some of them not so successfully. But it definitely is an alternative source for the municipalities. So we start looking, when we're looking at resources in South Africa, it's always now surface water, groundwater, and then desalination coming up. And desalination at the moment, its biggest challenge is the cost and the dependency on energy. Of course, and knowing the status we've got with Eskom, you don't really want to be dependent on an energy source that's not reliable, and at the same time you're wanting to provide a basic human need, which is water. So where one can actually find an alternative resource, we go for groundwater, but when there isn't none, then the municipality has to invest into desalination. And there are a couple desalination plants that are actually working well in the country.
Is that why some have been successful and some haven't been successful? Is it because of the because of the energy dependency or the energy intensive dependency?
I think it's a couple of things.
Okay.
I think it's a couple of things. The design of the plant has been one instance, and also the management of the plant. But I think in other instances is that because you need to get environmental authorization for where the waste from the desalination plant goes, and that process sometimes delays the desalination plant, or because the environmental plan hasn't been drawn up properly, the project gets cancelled because they're not getting the record of decision from the environmental authorities. So there's various reasons why it's that. With the electricity shortage, well, it just means that for that couple of that period of time, your desalination plant is not working. It's on standstill.
It's on standby, maybe. All right. Well, Andiswa, we're going to have to leave it there. But very quickly, before we let you go, what do you see as the future for groundwater exploration? Do you think we're likely to see further exploration? Do you think that, even though it's on a small scale at the moment within Southern Africa as a region, do you think it's likely to be picked up as a beat, within the near future?
I think so. Otherwise, I'll be out of business. And I'm not looking to be out of business anytime soon. No, I think the authority, second, the Department of Water Affairs in South Africa has really taken groundwater into task, and they're trying by all means to make sure that the local authorities responsible for water services are looking at their groundwater as an option for resource. So we're definitely looking at a boom in the next couple of years.
Very interesting indeed. Thank you very much, Andiswa, for joining us this morning. It's really been good talking to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Zena. Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. That's Andiswa Mlisa from the Earth Sciences consultancy organization called Umvuto Africa. And of course, Umvuto is a Xhosa word coming from the word amanzi, which means water. And they specialize, of course, in water services, but also in terms of geographic information systems, the link between technology and groundwater. So how to access groundwater, and how do we know that groundwater is present in a particular type of rock. So that is what they specialize in as well. That's round up our discussion this morning on African Dialogue. We'll be back next week, Monday. We'll be focused on education issues. And of course, tomorrow is Gateway to Africa during this time slot of 11 to 12, focusing on tourism and business. Thank you very much to my technical producer, Katlejo, and of course to the African Dialogue team. Until tomorrow's Gateway, African Dialogue will be back on Monday. Have a stunning day and do take care. Goodbye.